Dad's Girls Talk. I'm your host, Heyyyyyy, and today I'm having my mom join us to discuss mother-daughter relationships on Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Okay, to start off with, I wanted to ask a few questions if that's alright.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, great. First of all, can you share the full story of your testimony?
Well, my testimony is I met your father when I was 21, I believe. No, 20. I was 20 years old, and he actually invited me to his church on a Wednesday night. So I was like, okay, I've never been to this type of church. It was a Baptist church, and I decided to go with him, and I thought it was wonderful. It was the first time I ever thought people of religion looked normal. I was not used to that. I've only ever been to church for a funeral or a wedding, and this was the first time I heard someone talk about Jesus, and everyone just seemed friendly and open, and and everything. And I was kind of excited. And when we left, he said, "Sorry that seemed kind of lame tonight. Usually there's a lot more people, and there's I don't know, a lot more things going on." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't think anything of it." And then I went on a Sunday, and I was like, "Oh, this is fun." And so I heard them talking about getting saved for a few months, getting saved, but I didn't quite understand what it meant to get saved. I heard them say this, and then I heard them kind of mentioning you just do it wherever you want. You're praying to God, and I'm like, it can't be that simple, because I was brought up thinking that you had to be baptized as a baby to go to heaven. And so when they were talking about getting saved, I just didn't understand. And I was like, it can't be that simple. So anyways, we got married, um, and we went to church on and off, not consistently, but on and off. And then I was having a really sad time. You know how people say there's a void in you? Well, there was a void, and I just was not happy. I couldn't figure it out. I thought anything I wanted in my life was to get married. Well, I got married, and there was still some depression and a void there. So I just remember one night I was very, very, very upset, and I kind of just threw my hands up in the air, and then I went to bed, and I just prayed to God and Jesus. I said, Jesus, thank you for everything you've done for me, and I know it was my sin that put you on the cross, and I'm sorry for everything I've done. And I asked him to come in my heart, and so I got saved. And it was during a very lonely time. I felt very lonely, and a week later I found out I was pregnant with you. And then it took me a while to actually get baptized after that, because I felt a little bit ashamed, because I didn't want to go in front of everyone as an adult. But then I felt shame that I was letting my fears of going in front of people get in front of my baptism. So it took me a while. Once we became church members, it pushed me to actually get baptized to show everybody that I've been saved. So that was my testimony. I was just 21. I must have just turned 23 then. Yeah, I must have just turned 23. I feel like it was early September. I don't remember the exact date. I used to. But then a week later, I found out I was pregnant with you. So I knew it was right before, should have been around September. If that makes sense. About 10 months to your birthday. Yes.
Wow, that's very great. I'm so glad that I just grew up in a very religious and churched home. I think that this is a big part of my life, and I don't know how I would have ended up without a religion from the very beginning.
No, relationship with Jesus.
Yeah. I think that this is just very great, and I hope this for everyone. Um, can you tell us in what ways your relationship with God has been life changing for you?
Absolutely. And I agree. I always tell you guys at the youth group, especially teens, that you have no idea how lucky you are to know Jesus from a young age. I wish I knew that when I was lonely. Um, it definitely changed my life. I was talking about that void I had, and once I asked Jesus in my heart, that void went away. and it was completely life altering and life changing. I didn't feel lonely. I knew that no matter where I was, Jesus was there with me. And anything I went through, I mean, I would literally like picture him going in with rooms with me in hospital rooms or interviews. Anything that I was like nervous about, I actually could picture him with me. You know, I could pray to him whenever I wanted, in the car, at home, nighttime, dinner, anything. And knowing that for sure I was going to heaven, that's another thing that changed for me is growing up. Because I didn't get baptized as a baby, I thought I could not go to heaven. Like, I was not worth it. I was not worthy. I could not go to heaven. Even though I thought I was doing good works, I didn't understand this relationship with Jesus. I knew that he was born around Christmas and that he was on a cross, and that's all I pretty much knew. So, had I known when I was a older teen, young, like college student, that I wasn't alone any time of the day, then I think things would have been different. So I believe that you were lucky. And but I also have a perspective of living, knowing for sure I was lost and knowing for sure I was saved. Kids that grow up in church, they might not have that big occurrence like I did in my life to know the change. They sometimes might think, oh, I just did this because I heard it from the adults. This is right. So that's not always the case. But I know for sure, and I have that perspective. So when I see people that are lost or backslidden, I completely understand that. I have empathy for them. I can picture myself in their shoes because I know how it was to grow up lost and that loneliness. And now I'm on the other side of the fence where I know what it feels like to be saved. So, yeah, completely life changing. And I wish I knew it sooner so I wouldn't have to go through those hard times. So when people do say that, say people have no business necessarily being with lost people, if I was not with your father, I don't know if I would have ever been saved. I don't know where I would be. So people can change. I might be rare, but people can change.
That's great. That full 180 in your perspective of life and that loneliness just going away. That is great. That's a great example of what God can do in your life. I just love that. And I love what you said about actually picturing Jesus walking in rooms with you. I wish that I like took that mindset more. I just look at my what would Jesus do bracelet and I'm like, God's got this. But I wish I could like actually picture him in rooms with me. That just is so great. And what times have you used that specifically?
Specifically, like you and your brother ever going into a hospital room or emergency room, definitely that. Um, my nanny, when she was really sick, I pictured him there with us and hoping that she got to know him. But I remember that night praying, God, heal her however she needs to be, whether it's here on earth or with you, heal her. And he answered that prayer. So that was one of the first prayers I believe I ever had answered. So that was huge for me. Um, Leaving my previous job, it was the best job I ever had. And it was very hard to leave there. And to tell my bosses that I was leaving them was kind of devastating to them. And it was scary, scary, scary for me to leave that job to be a stay-at-home mom, which I was blessed to be for some years. So I pictured him walking in that conference room with me to tell my bosses I was leaving. I'm sure there was many more times, but those ones really stick out in my head. But definitely whenever I had anxiety, I picture him there. But definitely when you guys are in the hospital rooms or not feeling well.
Yeah, that's great. So, I know you say a lot about your goal for life, how it's mostly just careers that everyone thinks of when somebody asks, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? So, can you share that story with us? Because I just love the way you say it.
Yes, this is me going up on a soapbox or preaching. But I have this frustration in life that since we are almost born, but definitely when we go to school, mostly public school, from a young age, it's always, what do you want to be when you grow up? and you answer, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a teacher, which was one of mine. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a goal with an occupation, but my frustration comes in this country is that we only apply who people are based on their occupation. We train them from day one. You are what you do for an occupation, and that is your goal. Where I think it needs to come first, that your number one goal should be a child of God. You need Jesus in your life. After that, we should teach children that a good goal is to be a good husband or wife, or a good mother or father, and then the occupation. I think that's wonderful if you grow up with a goal. I kind of wish I did. There's some people that are very passionate. They know from day one, I want to be a singer or an actor or a teacher, and that's their goal. I think that's great. I'm not putting that down in any way, but the frustration comes in where people believe their number one strive is to finish school, go to college, get a job, and then family might come later. Family's not as important. I just really wish that it would go back to family coming first, and you should strive to want to be. When I ask my students, what do you want to be when you grow up? If someone says a great mom and a great wife, I think that is excellent, because you raise great kids, and then the occupation comes, then they'll strive to do great things. So what I'm trying to say is that your occupation shouldn't determine your self-worth, but you should have God's plan in mind. I actually envy people that grow up knowing what they want to do for their future, but I'm just saying, in this society, I wish that God came first. Family, if you choose to have kids, or even your significant other, being being a godly wife, godly husband, if you're married, just a godly daughter, godly sister, brother, son, just working on that first. So just raising our children to be godly people first, and in the relationships. And then from there, what do you want for God's plan in your life for your future career goals, or your occupation, or just being a stay-at-home mom for a while, or a homemaker, or a stay-at-home mom to raise good children in society. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but people belittle you and make you feel bad if your number one goal in life is raising your children and in God's image. So that's what that is. I think it needs to be rooted in that first, not just at age 5, what do you want to be when you grow up? Just an astronaut, just a teacher. So that's what I'm kind of trying to explain in not such great words.
I love it. I love it more every time I hear it. So, um, our mother-daughter relationship, what do you think of it? Like, I personally love it. I think that it's great, and I think that is a goal relationship for others, because I can come to you with anything. I trust you with what I tell you. There are times we bicker, but through and through, it's just all great.
Well, thank you. Uh, Thank you. We should let our listeners know that we don't have a 100% perfect relationship, and I am no means a perfect mom at all. At all. I see loads of laundry right now that are not even folded right here, so not at all. I'm glad to hear you say that, and maybe later I'll get emotional about that if I don't get emotional in front of people. um, I'm glad you feel that way about a relationship, but yeah, I've always told you, number one, I tell the youth group this, anyone who's listening, any teenagers, that I hope all moms are like this, but I tell you all the time that I don't care what you've done. I don't care how bad you think it is. I don't care how bad anyone will think it is. You come to me first. Go to God, yes, of course, first, but come to me. I don't care how bad it is. Come to me. We can work it out. I believe if kids try to hide things from their parents, it just turns into another lie or another bad decision on top of another bad decision. I don't care if I'm going to be mad at you. I probably will. I might lose trust with you for a while. We can build that back. But I don't care how bad it is. You come to me. If for some reason you don't feel like you can come to me, go to an aunt, go to your grandma, go to a teacher, just somebody in your life, a pastor's wife. Just go to somebody, and somebody will help you and take care of you. Because I've grown up with girls. I've seen this as an adult. Girls go to somebody else because they're afraid to go to their parents and make a really unwise decision after that. I might punish you. Kids, you need to be punished if something bad happens, but that's just temporary time. We will figure it out together and rebuild the relationship no matter what it is. So, I want you to come with me for anything, and I also like you when you come to me with just silly things, silly teenage things. I find it fun.
That's really funny. Um, so do you have any advice for mothers and daughters?
Yeah, I guess just be open. Be a parent or mother or disciplinary first, but also be friendly. I know there's some people out there that say, oh, don't be friends with your kids, but there's still a fine line where your kids respect you first. They need to respect you first. But also, I like that we're friends. I like that you can come to me with everything. Um, Not that I need to cling on to you for the rest of your life, but I just like that relationship. We can go out to eat whenever we want. We can talk on the phone whenever we want. I love that. So being open, be forgiving. I know we get on each other's nerves sometimes, as one does, with just having cabin fever, what it is. And I know I put a lot of pressure on you to almost be perfect, and I get irritated with you when you're not, which is not fair. And that's just because I don't like my downfalls, so I expect you to be better than me. So it's not fair to you that I want you to be better than me, but I just see so much potential in you that I want everybody else to see this potential. I see, like, at home, I see you're great and perfection, and out in the world, I want other people to see that too. So that's frustrating to me if you're not being your best, but that's not fair. You're just a kid. And people have always treated you older than what you are. So that's not fair to you either. But be forgiving. Um Practice forgiveness to each other when you're older. I'm sure we'll go through some times where we need to forgive each other in the future. So if you could forgive me for my ill behavior sometimes, or yelling at you for silly things I shouldn't yell at you for. No, just bickering, little bickering stuff. I don't love that. I like that we started a Bible thing on our Bible app, that we started a devotional together, so that way we can talk back and forth about the devotional and understand what we need to practice. It's any relationship is a building, constant building, figuring out each other's love languages, and all that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that devotional we started while you were talking. It's all about grace, all about showing grace to each other, whether that just be forgiveness or everyday things, like just like watching what you say and making sure that your words reflect love. I've been working on that recently, making sure my words reflect love, because that's something I personally struggle with. But do you think that for our relationship, do you think we need to set any goals?
I think grace is a good goal to have. I'm not a very graceful person. Maybe almost the opposite of grace. So that would be a good goal for both of us. And uh, trying to use our words. I'm trying to think of the word. You were kind of rigid or stern, would that be?
I'm very
And
blunt.
and blunt in questioning. And sometimes I tell you to do things because I know it's the best and I don't feel like explaining. And my anxiety definitely overtakes us sometimes, so I have to let you kind of be free and not have to worry so much. So that's my own personal goal, though, that I know that's a sin, anxiety. So I'm working with that daily. It's something I have to work on consistently all the time, which is frustrating. And I don't want to put that on you in any way. I've been open about that forever. So, yeah, do you have any specific goals for me? Us?
Not really for you, but um, like you were saying, I do. I think my goal personally would probably be working on just the teenage attitude.
Yes.
because that can always be better. I can always reflect the Bible's beatitudes. And your anxiety, I don't think that it's as overpowering as you believe, but I think that if we did even an episode for a podcast about anxiety, I think that would be great for both young and older people to hear, because I know that is a very common struggle in our world today. Oh, we're going pretty late on time, so to wrap it all up, what is the best piece of advice you can give to listeners? And what is the best piece of advice you have received?
Oh, that's a tough one. So, to listeners, if you don't want to know what I'm talking about being saved by grace, by Jesus, please, you can leave comments, listen to people, be open. My number one thing, empathy. Not just sympathy, feeling bad for people, but empathy. Putting yourself in that person's shoes will open your eyes to everything. I am one of those people on the fence sometimes because I can see everything from different people's perspectives, so it's hard for me to not sympathize with people. What was the second question?
The second question was, what is the best piece of advice you have received that you would like to share with others?
Oh boy. Oh boy. This is kind of random. Just something that pops out of my mind is we were at a couples conference and this Mrs. Brown was giving the woman's devotional, and she was saying about picking battles and having conversations with God that maybe not even your spouse knows or your children knows. And I had to deal with that because I really sometimes like to prove my point that I am right when I know I am right. That's very frustrating to me when I know for 100% something happened and people are trying to tell me, no, that didn't happen or you're wrong, when I know it's, but pick your battles. These little things are not the end of the world. Sometimes if me and my husband, or me and your daddy, sorry, are bickering, arguing about this, it's just like, put that aside. It's not about me. It's not about being right. Just pray to God and say, God, let me just let this go. Let this go. And another advice was just giving it to God. I had a really upsetting thing happen in my life before, and I was reading the Bible. God, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what you want me to do. Eventually I was just like, God, it's in your hands. And instantly the weight was lifted off my shoulder. It's in your hands. Just kind of trust and leave me.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Now might not be the time because this has to do with Mother's Day, but I know that the best piece of advice I was given was not given to me personally. We watched on American Idol recently, and Katy Perry said to one of the contestants, more grace. Yeah. That is what I strive for, and that stuck out to me, even though it wasn't my advice. I took it personally. So Katy Perry, thank you for the advice. I love it. Okay, is there any last things you'd like to say to the viewers?
Happy Mother's Day. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Follow her podcast. If you personally know Tara Tot and have an idea for her podcast or want to be on it, contact her and we'll see if we can work it out. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you to my children for all their gifts and then this blessing, and thank you, God, for life. If we need to pray for you, tell us prayers and unspoken requests. If you need us to pray for you, let us know. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you for joining us on God's Girls Talk. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye!